All right, so today we're diving deep into the world of personal finance with a real iconoclast, Ramit Sethi.
Yeah.
He's not about penny pinching or chasing Lambos.
Yeah.
He wants to help you build a rich life. And no, that doesn't mean we'll all be swimming in gold coins by Tuesday.
No.
What?
And I think what's so refreshing about Ramit is that he really understands that it's not just about the spreadsheets and the numbers, it's about the psychology.
Right.
Like, he gets that money is so emotionally charged, and that honestly, our beliefs about it often hold us back more than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. We've all heard that say money can't buy happiness.
Right.
But I think Ramit would say it can buy freedom from a lot of unhappiness.
Yeah.
100%. And that freedom lets you focus on what truly matters.
Yeah.
So how do we actually do that? Well, Ramit says that you need to understand your own financial landscape, your own personal financial landscape. And he points to 4 key numbers as a starting point.
Yeah, and I love how he frames these not as these restrictive budgeting categories,
Right.
but as a tool to actually help you reveal your priorities.
Okay.
So we're talking your fixed costs, your savings, investments, and then get this guilt-free spending.
Okay, guilt-free spending. That has my attention.
Right.
Explain.
So I think most people, when they think about being good with money, they think about deprivation.
Yeah.
Right. You can't.
Looking back.
Yeah, you got to cut back on everything, and you should feel bad if you spend money. But Ramit totally flips that on its head.
Okay.
He wants you to spend extravagantly on the things that you truly love and be ruthless about cutting back on all the other stuff that just doesn't really spark joy for you.
So it's about aligning your spending with your values, not just mindlessly trying to save on every little thing.
100%. Think about what brings you genuine joy. Is it travel? Trying new restaurants?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine being able to indulge in those things without an ounce of guilt.
Yeah.
That's the kind of freedom we're talking about.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention restaurants because Ramit talks about this in his book.
Mm-hmm.
He loves fine dining.
Yes.
He considers it an investment in experiences.
Absolutely.
But he also realized that he didn't care much about having a fancy car.
Right.
So he drives a used Honda.
Yeah, and that's such a great example of how looking at these 4 numbers can really help you make these intentional choices about your spending.
Yep.
Because by understanding what your fixed costs are, what your savings goals are, how much you want to invest,
Right.
you can free up all of this money for the things that actually matter to you.
Yeah.
Not to what society tells you should matter.
Yeah, it's like that saying, don't be a millionaire, be rich in experiences.
Yes.
But often those experiences require, money, which leads us to a big one, buying a house.
Right.
It's practically ingrained in our DNA, I feel like.
Yes.
That homeownership equals success.
Totally.
It's like the American dream.
Right. And this is where I think Ramit really challenges that assumption.
Yeah.
He's all about thinking for yourself, not just blindly following the crowd.
I have to admit, this is the part that really made me rethink things because Ramit actually chooses to rent, even in New York City.
I know.
He ran the numbers, factored in things like property taxes and maintenance.
Yeah.
And realized that for him, at this point in his life, renting made more financial sense.
It did for him. And owning a home can be fantastic, but it's not the only path to building wealth or having a rich life. What matters is making these informed decisions based on your specific circumstances, your financial goals, and yes, your risk tolerance.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to those 4 key numbers.
Right.
They provide you with that clarity to make choices that actually align with your rich life vision, not someone else's.
It's about what you want.
Exactly.
So renting might not be giving up on the dream. It's maybe just strategically timing it.
Yeah.
But let's move on to something that often feels even more mysterious, I think, than real estate.
Okay.
Investing. I don't know about you, but the stock market always seems like this exclusive club that I needed a password to enter.
It can definitely feel that way. And honestly, I think that intimidation keeps so many people on the sidelines.
Right.
But Ramit really breaks down investing in a way that's both accessible and effective.
Okay.
He's a big proponent of target date funds,
Good.
which are kind of the set it and forget it option of the investing world.
Okay, that sounds much less stressful than spending my days glued to a ticker tape.
Right.
How exactly do these target date funds work?
So it's all in the name. Basically, you just choose a fund that has a target date that aligns with when you're planning to retire.
Okay.
So let's say you're aiming to retire around 2050. You would pick a target date fund that has 2050 in its name.
Okay.
And the really cool thing about them is that they're inherently diversified.
Okay.
So they hold a mix of stocks and bonds, and they automatically adjust their risk level as you get closer to retirement.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So like in the beginning, when you're further away from retirement, the fund is more heavily weighted towards stocks, which have the potential for higher returns,
Right.
but also come with more risk. But as you get closer to your target date, the fund automatically shifts to a more conservative approach.
Exactly.
So it's increasing its allocation of bonds, which are generally considered less risky than stocks.
Yes. It's like having a financial advisor built right into the fund.
That makes sense.
So?
That takes a lot of the guesswork and the emotional decision-making out of it as you get older. And speaking of taking the emotion out of finances, Ramit is all about automation.
Yes.
He compares it to setting your bills on autopay,
Totally.
where you can have a certain amount of money automatically transferred from your checking account to your investment account every month.
Every month. Yeah. And it just happens without you having to even think about it.
So you're basically tricking yourself into investing consistently.
It's not so much a trick as it is just like leveraging the power of habit and psychology, because we as humans are wired to prioritize like immediate gratification over long-term rewards.
Right.
So by automating your savings and investments, you're kind of removing that temptation to spend the money elsewhere.
Yeah. So those 4 key numbers that we talked about earlier, they come in handy again here because you've already done the work of figuring out how much you can realistically afford to invest each month. And then the automation takes care of the rest.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, while this set it and forget it approach may not sound as thrilling as, say, like day trading or chasing the next hot stock tip. This is where Ramit's emphasis on patience and long-term thinking really comes in.
Okay.
He talks a lot about the power of compound interest, which he playfully refers to as watching paint dry.
It chuckles.
Because it's not flashy or exciting.
Right.
But it is incredibly effective.
So like a fine wine or a vintage record, it gets better with age.
Exactly. Think about this.
Okay.
You start investing just $200 a month at age 25 with a 7% annual return. By the time you're ready to retire, that seemingly small amount could potentially grow to, pulls out phone and opens the calculator app. Okay. Over $1 million.
Wait, $1 million just from investing $200 a month consistently?
Yeah. It's wild, right?
That's wild. Okay. I'm starting to see why compound interest is called the 8th wonder of the world.
Right. It's pretty amazing.
But even with $1 million in the bank, I think Ramit would argue that a rich life is about more than just having a fat bank account.
100%. He's all about designing a life that you love, not one where you're chained to your desk just to pay the bills.
Yeah.
He emphasizes aligning your money with your values, not the other way around.
That makes sense. But how do you actually design a life you love? Like, it's easy to say, but where do you even begin?
Well, Ramit has this really interesting exercise that he does with his clients called the Ideal Week exercise. And it's not about planning, like, lavish vacations or endless spa days.
Right.
It's about identifying what are the activities that truly energize you versus the ones that just totally drain you.
Like you're taking an audit of your time and seeing where it's actually going versus where you wish it was going?
Exactly.
I like it. So walk me through this ideal week a bit more.
Okay.
How detailed does it get?
It can be as detailed as you want it to be, but the idea is to be really intentional with it.
Okay.
So think about, like, how many hours a day are you working? How are you spending your evenings, your weekends?
Yeah.
Are you engaging in activities that bring you joy?
Yeah.
Or are you feeling obligated, drained, or just generally uninspired?
Yeah, it can be kind of scary to actually look at how we spend our time.
It can.
But how do we actually go from this ideal week vision to, like, making it a reality?
That's where money comes in, not as the goal itself, but as a tool.
Okay.
So once you've identified the activities that bring you joy and energy, you can start thinking about how to use your resources to create more space for those things in your life.
So it's not just about earning more. It's about aligning your spending with those values that you uncovered
Exactly.
in the ideal week.
Maybe it's hiring a house cleaner so you have more free time on the weekends to finally pursue that passion project that you've been putting off.
Right.
Or maybe it's investing in that online course that could help you transition into a career that you'd actually find more fulfilling. It's about being intentional with your spending so that it actually supports the life that you want to live.
It's like you said earlier, it's like buying back your freedom.
Yeah.
But not just in a material sense, but like freedom to actually spend your time in a way that feels good.
Totally.
That feels like it's aligned with who you are.
Right. And that brings us to another one of Ramit's insights that I found really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He's observed that a lot of successful people share certain traits that go beyond just being good with money.
Okay, this should be good.
Right.
We're not talking about those generic, like, wake up at 5 a.m. and hustle harder things, are we?
No, definitely not. Like, Ramit has noticed that a lot of his clients who are very wealthy, they excel in multiple areas.
Oh, interesting.
Like, they have diverse interests and skills. Yeah. They're also incredibly prepared.
Really?
Even for, like, casual conversations.
Wow.
Because they understand the value of information and, like, anticipating questions that might come up.
It's like that saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yes.
It's about being ready when that opportunity presents itself.
Exactly. And, beyond just being prepared, they've also cultivated really strong social skills. Mm-hmm. They understand that relationships really matter.
For sure.
Both personally and professionally.
It's not just about what you know, it's who you know, and I think how you make them feel.
100%. And I know we need to wrap up soon.
Yeah.
But we can't talk about Ramit without addressing his somewhat controversial money rule.
Chuckles, yes. The marry the right person rule. So it's not about finding a partner with a trust fund.
No, not at all. It's about finding someone who shares your values when it comes to finances. Or at the very least is open to having honest and transparent conversations about money.
Because let's be real, money can be a huge source of conflict in relationships if those values and those communication channels aren't there.
100%. Remember that story Ramit tells about how he and his wife approached money so differently?
Yes.
He was all about investing in growth,
right,
while she really prioritized like safety and security.
It's a great reminder, I think, that even couples who seem financially savvy on the surface can still benefit from really talking openly about their money mindsets and, finding ways to bridge those gaps.
Yes. It's about being on the same team working towards that shared vision, because ultimately a rich life is best enjoyed with people you love.
Well said. This deep dive has been amazing. So many great, actionable insights. Excuse me, I need to go update my ideal week plan, dust off my compound interest calculator.
Chuckles.
And maybe have a little conversation with my partner about our shared financial goals.
Sounds like a plan. And remember, building a rich life is a journey. It's not a destination.
Yeah.
It's about making intentional choices that align with your values, automating your finances to reduce that stress, and just cultivating the habits and the mindset that lead to long-term well-being.
And most importantly, remembering that rich is a relative term, right? What truly matters is defining what it means for you and taking those small, consistent steps to make it a reality.
I love that.
Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a pleasure as always.
Yes, mine too. Thanks for having me.